Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Not having such a Hall of Fame day. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. He's the coach, Philip Roybal. And if you love college football, you found us. So don't forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Sorry, boys and girls, for the weird little hook. I was trying some new software out today. It looked like it was going to be what's up, Drew? It looked like it was going to be working fine, and then all of a sudden, not so much. So we're going to talk about a few things. I had to jump back on StreamYard, and it took a couple of minutes to get us all lined out. Anyway, let's talk about the speed merchant. Who's that? Do tell. We are going to talk a little bit about a lot of stuff today. Obviously, got top defensive tackle targets, David Stone, Nigel Smith, as well as some others coming in this weekend for the Oklahoma Spring Game. This is why it's a big deal for these guys to make a big impression coming into this one. Obviously, you had a nice new commitment from a receiver, speedy wide receiver from Louisiana, KJ Daniels for Oklahoma. And looks like there's going to be another one headed this way. We talked about it with Drew the other night. Looks like it's a lock as well. Another speed demon. In fact, he's a track star from the University of Texas. We'll get into that a bit as well. And the other thing I hope is what you're talking about here. You got to be shitting me. The other thing I hope you were talking about there, Hank, was that speed demon. Got you. Never mind. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Okie Lite lost a heavyweight again. So we'll talk a little bit about what it is that it seems to be going wrong out there in Stillwater, where you have Coach Gundy hemorrhaging starters just a little more. This time his left tackle, who's supposed to be the main guy protecting his half-ass quarterbacks. So we'll see. We'll get into that and a few other things. Coach, how's everything going this evening?
It's going good, man. Just trying to wind down from the day a little bit. It's a great way to wind down right here.
Yep. What do you think about your Notre Dame Fighting Irish for this weekend? What are you looking forward to in the spring game that they got going on as well?
Well, I tell you what, I think, we got a lot to look at here in the spring game. I think our I tell you what, I've been pleasantly pleased and surprised, I guess is the biggest word, with our quarterback competition. We brought in Sam Hartman, and supposedly supposed to be like the seventh best quarterback, playing this next season. But yet, we've got my mind just went blank. Our quarterback that played last year, good grief, I can't believe I just went blank.
Well, he was bad, so I would have went blank on him probably too.
But he's really pushing Hartman, from what I understand.
Huh. Imagine that little competition pushes everybody, does it?
You gotta love that. But quarterback play, I think, is a big thing. I think offensively, and then again, the receivers are a big thing that we gotta, we've got to get better there. So I think those are the two big things offensively we got to look at, and then defensively, I think we have some safety depth problems there that we need to get, solidified. And then we have a couple of D-line issues. I think that and I'm not going to say issues, but some new guys stepping in that we got to look at. So those are the two biggest things, two on each side of the ball that I think are going to be important to see how those things turn out.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I mean, and they looked good at times. There was just they couldn't seem to pass the ball. They were pretty one dimensional. You obviously had amazing running backs, two of them that and you got both of them back. So it's not a situation where if you can just get a little bit of balance, it seems like you're going to probably be pretty good all the way around.
And I think they've talked about Hartman not looking real good. during the spring. But again, I think a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff it's a whole different. They were going no huddle, and
Yeah.
doing a lot of things differently, and then he's having to learn a new system, and
Hmm.
so we know what he's like, and we know he can play, and so I think we're going to be just fine, especially like you said, we just got to be able to throw a little bit because those running backs, both over 800-yard running backs that are big, strong, and pretty fast.
Right. Yeah. I would say that, man, that guy, when the way that you ran the ball, if you had any balance whatsoever last year, what did they end up losing? 4?
Yeah,
And so, I mean, they very easily could have, made a run at the whole thing. And I mean, they hung around for way longer than you probably should have
yeah,
when it came
right,
to SC because of the fact that they couldn't run the football. But
right.
talking a little bit about Oklahoma's pickup, this their third commitment of the 2024 session. Kelly KJ Daniels, uh, from Louisiana. I mean, this kid is lightning fast. He's from Franklinton, Louisiana. I guess Emmett Jones found him at I guess basically it was like one of those camps or whatever, where they go in a skills camp type of deal. And he was unbelievably fast. He's a little on that small side at 5'10", 153. But, and he doesn't have any stars. He hadn't been ranked. He's one of those kids that just kind of came out of nowhere. We know all about that, don't worry about that, Mars Jams. That's the Streamlabs stupid thing. I hadn't gotten it figured out yet. So you don't worry about putting Boomer in there. It's all good. In fact, I'll pop it up on the screen so they can hush. But yeah, so you're looking at these commitments. I mean, they're big. You also obviously, at receiver, that's the one place that we were kind of talking about this the other night on Jay's show, was that if you're looking at anywhere that Oklahoma is unproven, you have a couple of players that have done a little bit here and there, but you hadn't seen them really put it all together. Jalil Farouk, it looks like if he gets it together and really, I mean, that's the expectation, is for him to really step up into that number one spot. Andrel Anthony, the commit, the transfer from Michigan, he's a big time down the field threat. So that's going to be big for that. And then of course, if you are able to bring in Brennan Thompson from Texas, this is it looked as if
Speedster.
yeah, and really he was probably an Oklahoma guy before,
Yeah,
and then you had of course Lincoln leaving, and they lost track of him a little bit, and he ended up going to Texas. But again, I guess the way I could tell is he got in Sark's doghouse a little bit for being a track guy. It's not something that, how it is at Texas, man. They always seem to be that way. Even Mac was that way, right?
hey, I'm telling you, it's that Texas arrogance.
It's
And
so weird. He used to get pissed off at Cedric Benson all the time for playing baseball. And I mean, he was a top 10 round draft pick guy.
well, and I tell you what, you get into those coaches that think that, well, and it happens in high school too, but
Yeah.
mostly at the college level, you see guys that think those guys they got to have their hands on them 24/7, 365. And guys, an athlete is an athlete, and I don't care who the coach is.
Right.
You can coach them up a little bit, but you know what? When you have an athlete like that, you coach them a little bit and you cut them loose. You don't have to have them every day. And to me, my philosophy on that, Jason, is there's no better substitute than competition. And I
Right.
know we want you in the weight room and we want you getting stronger and faster, but you know what?
I don't even think
There's,
that was the
you can
biggest issue, though.
you cannot simulate competition. And
That's
if
right.
they're competing, that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely, coach. And I bet, and I'm guessing that Drew would agree with you. He's a quarterbacks coach and stuff at a high school in Tulsa, and it seems like a lot of these guys, especially with track, a lot of these coaches now, they want them to be track guys in high school. They want them running track. Why? Because they want them to compete. They want them to, I mean, we had Darian had went out for track. He hadn't went out for track before he did it so that he could get a little faster and and compete a little harder. That's what his coach was trying to tell him to do. It was something that the guys that I think his coach, the JUCO coach, was telling him the same thing. And it's one of those deals. How all of a sudden is this a problem once you get to Texas? And I mean, there's a lot of coaches. You remember back in the day when Butch Davis was doing that at Miami, so that he could get Santana Moss and guys like that in there to be part of their team. I mean, come on, man. It just seems like,
and it's only going to make them better. I mean,
right?
Come on, man. It's just crazy. And I know that in my years of coaching high school and college football, we always stressed track in the off season. Now, if you weren't going to track, then obviously we had you in the off season program working your tail off.
But, sure.
But track is a great complementary sport to football. I mean, speed kills, guys. We know that.
Hey, listen, man, and you can't. I mean, you don't get faster by not running.
No.
I mean,
no.
I mean, you look at these kids. What about those Florida kids? I mean, that's the speed state, right? They talk about it all the time. How do they do it? Chasing freaking rabbits around all the time. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy, but they're out there running and running and running. And this is a guy that, I mean, I know Oklahoma, they had already offered him a track scholarship before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that wasn't a thing it wasn't a problem as far as that's concerned. And again, that opens up some of those scholarships on your team. And if you're Oklahoma still you're kind of up against it with scholarships now because of all they're to the point now that you kind of have to have some guys going into the portal and stuff in order to get some of their scholarships, because right now that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The OCF. Why are we asking about him all of a sudden? What did he do? He's not my buddy anymore. So, I mean, I don't really care or have a problem with him, but, over that whole Saban deal, he acted like a tool. So, yeah, that's kind of what I feel about that. And he's going to speak his mind. I speak my mind too. You don't have to take it as far as he took it. So, and he went personal with it and made threats and stuff like that. And I mean, I ain't the guy, so it is what it is. Anyway, I don't have a problem with him though, per se. It's all good. Okay. OCF hates Lincoln Riley. Well, that's what we agree on for sure. For sure. Yeah. That's one of the things we agree on. Among some other things. I mean, I don't have a problem with him. He was just, we made that point that day about, we were talking about how Coach Saban was paranoid at this point, and you can see that he is. And they took it another way about the whole deal with Jeff Lebby. Come to find out, they were working very hard to get Jeff Lebby, as was Georgia. So it's not like I was wrong. So he took it there. But anyway, yes, I can't wait. Why do I hate Riley? Why do I hate Lincoln Riley? Same reason most Oklahoma fans do. It's not that I don't even know if it's a hate thing as much as it's I think he's pretty shameful. The way that he went about it and stuff, and the fact that he could go and recruit for Oklahoma, for USC while still employed at Oklahoma and having his assistants do the same thing. It was shady. And I mean, listen, this whole deal with Bear Alexander, and it's starting to look like, for what reasoning would you be going to USC, leaving Georgia to go to USC, unless it was a fat stack of cash? And all of a sudden it's just like Jordan Addison last year. It's in the second opening of the portal when he was in spring practice and everything seemed to be okay. I don't know, man. I know that there's been some grumblings about maybe he's kind of a pain in the ass defensive tackle. Some of them are. I get that. But I would tell you that there's probably something there. And if he is going to USC, again, you want to mess with your Development. I mean, it was funny. Drew the other night said, "Well, I guess he better get ready to lose some weight." So for Speed D, that 307 ain't gonna cut it. You're gonna have to cut like 20 pounds at least. But but listen, man, I think that's probably what it is, and that's the other school that it appears that he could be in for would be Texas. They of course have a lot of money too. So they may have jumped in on that, and then of course you would expect A&M's probably jumping in there as well. He's already left A&M to go to Georgia, so
he better not want to throw the shot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't want to throw the shot put. Yeah. I think it would be a hard thing for him to lose weight. But again, if you look at that guy, this guy had 2 sacks in the national championship game. He played behind their best player most of the year. He played in spot duty, but he was always in on every play. I mean, we're talking about 6'5", 307, the type of size that God just doesn't make a bunch of those dudes. He just doesn't. And that's why they're so highly coveted in college football, because that's what you need to win championships.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Right now, and this is the thing, and what we're starting off to talk about anyway, you have as many as 4 5-star defensive linemen that will be at the Oklahoma Spring Game this weekend. It's one of the few games that you were seeing that was going to be this weekend instead of last weekend, which was fairly surprising to me. I was expecting that you were probably going to see more this weekend, but it seems like all the big schools, pretty much aside from Notre Dame, Colorado now, Oklahoma, pretty much got it out of the way a week ago. That includes Texas. That includes Alabama. I mean, obviously Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State. And I'll tell you this. Here was my thought about the whole thing with, I think he's probably more like 325 too. But that's what they got him listed at. But what I was getting at is, you're looking at a situation where Nigel Smith, and last week we saw that where he had tweeted to that Peyton kid that's going to Ohio State, the linebacker. Somebody help me with his last name. Talking about that they would be a good tandem going to Ohio State. Well, you figure he probably would have been at Ohio State last week, but apparently he wasn't. He went to Penn State spring game instead. And if he was anything like the rest of the recruits apparently at Happy Valley that were ranting and raving over Penn State and what they looked like, Peyton Pierce, thank you, James. I knew I could count on you. If he was anything like that, where they were all just ranting and raving about what happened there at Happy Valley, they love what James Franklin's doing. Whatever, man. I say win something. But it makes you kind of wonder is it a stroke of luck that Oklahoma's having it a week later? Or maybe is it a stroke of Brent Venables' magic and brains to make sure that you're holding it a week later so that you make sure that you get this kid to your spring game? A year ago, Oklahoma packed out the Palace. I mean, over 75,000 people there. And so it's obviously a good recruiting weekend. And I think that particularly Todd Bates and his boys, they need to bring their A game recruiting wise. You have David Stone. Obviously, he's from Oklahoma City area, but he's been at IMG. He looks like a lock, but you need to lock him down if right. It's me. That's my thoughts.
But just real quick, talking about what you just said.
Please do. Yeah.
That talking about this coming weekend and being able to get some of those recruits in there.
Yeah.
I think that's ingenious. I truly do. And again, we're doing the same thing.
Right.
It's a little later than everybody else's, but again, now there's some athletes that could be at Georgia or Alabama or some of those other schools that now we're going to have the chance to have those guys in to our places.
No doubt.
And that helps tremendously.
Well, yeah, because you had, and I mean, the other guy that you're looking at, Xadavien Sims, is probably going to be there. Now he moved into, he's the number one recruit in the state of Oklahoma, another defensive lineman, 4-star, could be a 5-star by the time all's said and done. He's definitely the number one recruit in Oklahoma. And you're looking at, he's probably going to be there. There's another couple, there's that kid from Louisiana, another high 4-star guy. This is the weekend that you need to make that happen, because if you're looking at it, defensive tackle wise is really the place that, as far as the linebackers working with Peyton Pierce, and I said this on the show the other day, I'm not all that concerned about the linebackers right now. They've got some depth there. It looks like there's some serious competition for playing time at all. When you start adding up the guys that they've brought in through the portal, the guys that they're bringing in that haven't even shown up for spring yet, you've got the kid from Florida that lit up the Under Armour game not that long ago. And I mean, him and Adabawari, these guys, they're going to be here too. You still got Samuel Omosihos that hadn't showed up yet. I mean, he'll be there. He's a stud. And so as far as the linebackers are concerned, do you want to go get some of these guys? Absolutely. There's still some guys out there too. What I would tell you is I believe that Nigel Smith might be the best athlete out of the lot of them when it comes to those defensive tackle kids. And there's a ton of them. I mean, and you're looking at 4 or 5 of them. We know that Williams Nwaneri is going to Colorado this week. It'll be his first visit out there. He hasn't got to meet Coach Prime. Listen, his best friend in the world is already at Oklahoma. He seems to be a lock. Now, if anybody could flip him, it would be Coach Prime. But what I would say is the chances are you're going to get 3, maybe even 4 of these guys that are top level, top 100 players in the country at that position.
Mm-hmm.
That's who they need. That's the biggest. But you're looking like you're pretty heavy at safety. You're looking like you're pretty, and all this was an issue last year, folks. So you start looking at, you've got Jacob Lacey in here from Notre Dame. You've got obviously Bothroyd coming in from Wake Forest. That guy's a game wrecker. I can't wait to see what he does this weekend. But if you can get some of these guys, I think that Nigel Smith can play anywhere he wants to. If you watch him play basketball at all, that guy is a freaking stud all the way around. It's just a straight athlete. And don't get me wrong, Stoney is unbelievable too, right? That's just how it is. Williams is taking his visit and then silent committing elsewhere. Which Williams? Nwaneri? Huh. I don't know. I haven't heard that. Everything that I keep hearing is that, because of, his teammate and everything else, he looks like he's made. I think he does prefer the edge, but I don't know. I mean, he's a game wrecker. This is the kid that the kid that I've watched the most film of. I've seen a lot of Stone. I've seen a lot of Nwaneri. I've seen a lot of the kid we were just talking about from Durant. He's Xadavien Sims, stud too. I mean, these guys are very, very good. I think athletically wise, you could probably move this kid around a bit. He's just a good athlete, man. Yeah, I don't know how factual that would be either, man. Maybe that's the case. I mean, you never know. You never know. Look, here's the beauty of it, right? If you start looking at a lot of this stuff, I mean, you've got as many, from what they were saying it on 3, there was at least there's at least 6 guys that are either have Oklahoma at the top, these are all defensive tackles. They either have them at the top or right near the top. They're in their top 3-ish. Again, there's a ton of time until December. So, there's plenty of time for that. What I would tell you is if you could get even 2 of them, you're going to be good.
Well, and that's the thing. At this time of the year and being in the hunt, I mean, guys, y'all have solidified yourselves defensively already.
Right.
But being able to bring in, like you said, even if it's 2 out of those 6, then you've hit a grand slam. And so just to be in that position that you're in right now, Y'all are really in great shape.
I agree. And I feel like here's the I mean, everything that you read and hear from David Stone. And I think that him and Nwaneri were both at Michigan State. That would be my concern with not Nwaneri. It was him and Xadavien Sims were at Michigan State last week. The worry that I get there is that they could go there, except for every time you turn around, Stoney's throwing the horns down and wearing OU gear. And he's from Oklahoma City area. So, this is a kid that he may be apparently coming back to Oklahoma to play his senior year. His sister goes to Oklahoma. There's lots of reasons. Now, there's going to be a lot of people throwing money at him, but when you grow up in the state of Oklahoma and you play football, there's a reason why they've gotten 16 of the last 21 number one Oklahoma kids, right? It just happens because that's where you want to play. I like Xadavien Sims. I like him a lot. And if you look at the guy, he looks the part for damn sure. But here's the deal. Whoever they get, my guess is it's going to be okay. Because again, they've got a couple of guys that they've got them for the next couple of years. You've even got, but Stone, according to what he was telling on 3, is expecting to play right away. It seems to be that's what Todd Bates is talking to him about. And of course, him playing at IMG, it's definitely a different animal there, than anywhere in the country. They don't play for state championships there. It's developmental all the way. So they look really good. Yeah, on the track team. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So see, and that's the whole deal. I think that David is probably gonna end up there. I do think that Nwaneri, he's been a lock for a while as far as most of these recruiting quote unquote experts think. That doesn't mean anything. But when you have that many guys that are right up there, that tells you what they're doing. That tells you that they're back to recruiting that way. And some of these additions and what they've been able to do, all they got to do now is take it to the field, man. And they've got the schedule to be able to take it to the field this year. Even if they're not necessarily ready for the SEC this year, fine. They don't need to be. They're still playing in the Big 12, and they freaking have an easy schedule. You need to win 9 games, and it'll get even better. If you win at least 9, it will get better. Yeah, and I think so too. Yeah, and the 4 and 5-star guys, there's a difference of this in those dudes.
Yeah,
that's it.
And sometimes the 3-star guys end up being better than the 4-stars.
No doubt about it, man. There's no doubt. And here's the thing. A lot of that has to do with speculation. Some of the 4-star, they're just that guy when you look at them.
Yeah.
The measurables are just jumping off the freaking screen at you, But, and that's the whole thing. When you start looking at Nigel Smith, dude, Nigel is, pull him up. Watch him play basketball. Forget football. Watch him play basketball. And tell me that he can't make a difference in he's one of those guys that competes, right? Yeah, is that what happened? You got really tired of arguing about the receiver today? Yeah, who cares about that? Here's the thing. Look, me and Coach have been pumping Darian Holmes all year long. He doesn't have any stars, and it's not because he's not a star. It's not. He just didn't get looked at. He didn't get looked at. He had a situation in there in San Antonio. It had nothing to do with grades. It had nothing to do with him being a bad kid. He had a coach that didn't play him. And it sounds like there was something that happened with the last kid the year before that he kind of had to play him. I don't know exactly what all happened, but it happens. These things happen sometimes, and they fall through the cracks. You can't tell me that a guy that had 81 catches, 1,300 freaking yards, and 19 touchdowns wasn't the man, because he was. So this guy, apparently, if you're running 10-2 speed, and which is the same thing that you're getting out of, man, if they are going to get Brennan Thompson, because he just ran a 10-200, at the college level, that's insane. And yeah, nobody coaches 4-3 and twitchy. You just can't do it, right? I think that's the big thing when you start looking at this kid that came in from Michigan too. There's a lot of question marks at this position, but there's a lot of talent there. You know, I pray they can hold on to KJ too. Yeah, my guess is that everybody's going to know about him now, Hank. I think you're right. I mean, he didn't have any stars before, but if he's he's going into his senior season, and they know that about him, that he's that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matt, we were always talking about Brandon too. He didn't have any stars, and he's from Oklahoma. Everybody freaking knew who he was, and he still wasn't. He led the country in touchdowns. Led the country. Or was it receptions? He was insane, and he had to walk on at Oklahoma. But that's a good thing for OU. I mean, good for them, to get him, because he was unbelievable too. I think they're fine there. I'm not, and again, we can talk about this all day long, but I'm not concerned so much about the offensive side of the ball. Just not.
Has never been an issue.
No, and it still isn't. Everybody thought it was going to be a problem as soon as Lincoln left. Like it was like they were shitty at it before he got there.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything special. He got a few guys out of the transfer portal that were great. And Caleb Williams, that was the one big recruit that he made. The recruiting, and from what it looked like to me, from what I was looking at the USC game, and I think it was Drew that was saying this the other day, the kid that's coming in behind Caleb Williams, he's not ready. He's not ready. And I already knew he wasn't Dante Moore. The best quarterback in the city is, if it ain't Caleb Williams, it's Dante Moore. So, yeah. Let's see. He has walk-on at 2,300 yards. Yes. 21 total touchdowns. He is so sick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he led in, was yardage, right? He had over 100 catches, didn't he? It's insane. Insane. Yeah, look, and as I said, why Sark – but here's the deal. Here's what I would – and pardon me for defending Texas at all. It's not like they freaking have – an issue with players, receiver wise. They're loaded at the position. With you having Xavier Worthy coming back, you finally get the kid from Wyoming to, he's going to get to play this year. We'll see what he looks like in view of the fact that he still had a torn, I think it was an ACL last year. They don't always make it back in 1 year. That being said, then they've got, Jonte Cook, and he looked good in that spring game if you watched him at all. And the thing is that Quinn looked good. You know what it means to me? It means that Sark doesn't have any damn excuses, because his offensive line is the real deal. That's if they're not the deepest running back room in the nation, it's the other side of the Red River in Oklahoma.
Hey, Sark needs to show me. He's average, and I don't care how good his team is. Like you said, he's got all the pieces, but you got to put the pieces in the right places, and he's yet to prove that.
Yeah. Look, bottom line is he's never won 10 games. He coached at Washington, and I don't care if they hadn't won any games when he got there or not. He's coached at Washington. He's coached at SC, and now he's coached. This is his third year at Texas. So to me, look, if you watched Arch at all the other day, he's not ready. That is over with. If they're going to talk about anybody, they should be talking about the second quarterback, which, man, I'm telling you, they don't have excuses. They don't. But Sark's never won 10 games. And the problem with that is when you get into a situation like this where they don't have any tougher schedule than Oklahoma does, except for in week 2, they got to play Alabama. Everybody will forgive them if they lose that one. But losing again to TCU, losing again to Texas Tech, not so much. Okay? Not so much. They're not going to let you have that one again. Losing for the 7th time in 11 years to Okie Lite, especially this Okie Lite that's even lighter, that's not going to cut it either. They seem to always beat K-State. But, it's time for Texas to put up or shut up for sure. I think that's where they're at. And, he even kind of stuck himself in that position too on the Pivot podcast, saying This looks and sounds and everything like my team. Okay. Well, it better be your team now. I still feel like Patterson left for a reason. I think that he wants to see him fall on his face and take the job. This is me.
I would buy that.
Wouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
kind of how Gary is, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I would buy that. Gary would definitely do that.
Yeah. I mean, he was
And
making
I'll
it
tell
about
you
his
what,
way.
I'll say this about Gary.
He coached his ass off.
Just my opinion, he'd be a hell of a lot better than Sark. Now, they'd be more defensive minded than they are offensive minded. But
you can run the ball, and they're still going to be loaded.
Yeah, and he, Gary did a great job at TCU with his defense, and
Right.
I sat in a lot of those defensive meetings, and I was so impressed with how his defense worked.
Coach, he's been one of the top defensive coaches in the country for 30 years.
Exactly.
For 30 years. Before he ever became a head coach, he was the man.
Exactly.
I mean, and I think that what happened, there comes a time at every place, and particularly at a place like TCU that hadn't been winning in a long time. Then he gets there and they do some things. I mean, they got that close to getting to the playoff that year, and then Bowlesby screwed it up by not having a freaking game they had a coin flip over the damn thing. That was so stupid. It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
You got a week off, even play the damn game, play it. But if aside from that, I mean, he had a couple of other times where he was close, but those years seemed to put him in this place where he felt untouchable. It got a little, and you know how coaches are with this stuff, Coach? They get that way sometimes. They just do. They think they can get away with whatever, And so whenever that happened, and the whole deal with SMU 2 years in a row, and they get in a fight, and stuff like that, and then the whole thing with Coach Keel, that was the TCU players that started all that, not the SMU players. He blamed it all on SMU.
Right, but
was it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, they have video. The video showed
was the bottom line for him, and
they'd gotten sick of him. It's kind of what happened with Coach Leach
ran its course.
Tech. It ran its course. It was just time. Yes, I do think Coach Riley gets away with whatever because he doesn't stay long enough to outwear his welcome. That's the other part. He was starting to get there in Oklahoma. He knew it. He knew everybody was about to start screaming because they already kind of were, And had it not been for Caleb Williams, they have a bad season that year. Because Spencer Rattler wasn't going to do it. Huh?
Hey, he's gone next year to the NFL. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. See?
He's gone.
I keep hearing that from you guys.
He's a gone pecan. He's going to ride his quarterback into the NFL, and that's why he's got Kingsbury.
Kingsbury's going to get the job at freaking.
No.
You still no.
He's going with him. He's going with him.
Okay. Folks, if you haven't hit that like button, we got over 30 people in here. Please make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget that you can always help support the show, and we need your support if we're going to be going on more day after day after day with tips or official podcast merchandise. It's right above Coach Roybal. You can see that there are some different we've got some cool, we even got some Macari seatbelt stuff in there. The Seatbelt Mafia, a couple of different stuff like that. Lone Wolf for what team? Huh? Whoever's going to be number one, because he's going number one. Listen, we've got all the podcast merchandise. You can even use our Fanatics partner link, get up to 65% off everything in our store just by using that link. So, BB bringing in Jim Leonard is the thing. I like that idea. I like it too. I liked what I heard the other day about that Coach Venables kind of got on to old Ted Roof a little bit about, I guess, one of them linebackers that wasn't doing it. He said, we've seen this damn movie before. I loved hearing that. He wasn't having it. And this is what we want out of Coach Venables, man. This is what we want out of him. He doesn't need to be stuffed shirt over there on the sidelines. Go crazy, man. Go crazy. I'm good with that. People think he needs to. No. Chicken, back in the house. Welcome back, my friend. Welcome back.
All right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, go crazy, man. And that's the thing. I want him to go crazy. That's who he is. That's who he is. You don't have to be different, and that's how you coach the best. So, it is what it is. Now, speaking of different animals, Okie Lite. Okie Lite, Okie Lite, Okie Lite.
They're getting lighter.
They just got way lighter, man. 300-pounder, left tackle, 6'7", gone. He gone. And he didn't even, and the thought was that he might be going to SC. Turns out, BYU. In conference, you lose him. Immediately available. What say you, Coach? I'll go with second on this one.
Well, I mean, it all speaks back, guys, to I think that the problems that are going on at Okie Lite. He's a player, and to lose somebody like that's going to hurt him a lot. And then, like you said, going to BYU, are you kidding me? I mean, you're losing him to a conference rival. It's amazing to me that it caught me completely off guard when I heard that.
That's the thing. Hey, listen, and all these people that think that BYU isn't going to be a problem in the Big 12, I'm going to tell you they are. This is a similar to Notre Dame type program. When they were in the same conference as Utah, they beat their asses 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
When I think that they were really good as an independent, but now you've got them in a power league, not as powerful as it was without Oklahoma and Texas. But I'm going to tell you, and Chicken, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us a super chat. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Good to see you back.
Yeah, good to see you back, my man. How bad are they going to be this year? That's a good question. What say you there, Chicken? He said he loved the show. I appreciate that, man. We're glad to have you back. Now, how bad are they going to be? Coach, go ahead. What do you think there? Because I got thoughts.
Guys, that train, there's two trains that I've seen slowing down, and that's Baylor and that's Okie Lite. And and you guys that have been with us for a while, y'all been hearing me talk about Baylor going in the wrong direction, and Okie Lite is the other one. They are both headed in the wrong direction.
Well, so is Houston, for that matter.
And you're correct. You're correct. Houston as well. But I think, and again, I think all three of those teams are headed in the wrong direction. And can he save his job if he has a bad season this year? I think they'll can him.
Oh, Gundy? Yeah. I don't. I think it's all smoke and mirrors on that shit. I got to tell you why. These dudes, so? Remember I told you they've got a 5-year revolving contract. Now, they're not going to pay him $40 million. It starts over every year, so they're not going to pay him $40 million to walk. I think he could be on the hot seat after this year. And even though Cody said what he said, and look, as much as I like Cody, I ain't buying it. Because even today, and he's the one guy that holds Gundy's feet to the fire when it comes to the media around there, know, and he's just a YouTube guy. But he does a really good job, by the way. But even on his show earlier, and he was kind of taken up for him, saying that it was about Etienne not wanting to compete, that he was going to be rotating at that position because of the way they're supposedly going to be heavy run this year. Well, that's probably because they don't have any receivers. But in any event, it is what it is. They did lose 5 of their top 6 receivers. So I'm sure they are going to go heavy run. And on top of that, they lost their quarterback too, which not for nothing, Spencer Sanders looked pretty good out there with with Ole Miss. I think he's got that job if taking a look at it.
Right.
Look, I just feel like it's one of them deals where they're not going to do it right away. Because even in there, everybody's taking up for him that it's always the player. All these guys left. I mean, we're talking 30 kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Upwards of 30 kids that they've lost in the portal, not because they wanted to. We're talking starters or in the rotation to play a lot, right?
They're flying out of there like there's a damn fire.
And there is. Guess what? He's going off on these kids. Hey, man, God forbid it's anything inside of your locker room. You want to keep on. You've got people, everybody's telling you or telling everybody else that it's all these kids. Well, I wonder if these kids are so bad, they've been in your program. So where did they get that way from? If the culture's bad, the culture's bad because of what?
Of your program. I mean,
what did I tell you before that after they beat Texas last year, right before they got their ass handed to them by K-State, they were talking about, the culture he built, and it was making me want to puke. I'm like, you got to be shitting me, right?
Yeah.
And yet, and what happens? They get thumped. You knew that was coming, right? Yep. But if we're going to sit here and talk about culture, and you want to sit here and blame it on all these kids, it's not like that. I mean, there's only one of them that was a freshman and left.
Yeah.
And his brother stayed around, and apparently it's only because he's dating the OC's daughter. You know what I mean? But seriously, I mean, they literally, yes, absolutely. And that's the whole point. You can blame all these kids if you blame all these kids if you want to. But at some point, it can't all be the kids. 30 of them? It's 30 kids that you brought into your program, and all of them are that bad.
But they're your kids. And you know what? This isn't high school football where these are the kids you get handed. This is college football. You went and got those kids.
That's right. And they've all been in your program for freaking a long time.
Exactly.
We're not even talking about
your program. And you know what? If it's the kids, that's on you, Gundy.
Damn right. Damn right. And the whole thing that, Cody was hearing before, and he got killed for this, by the way. Killed. Because he's insulated, guaranteed Gundy's over there insulated. He's got his people that they go on the attack for him anytime anybody says anything. After the Wisconsin loss in the bowl game, where that kid asked, are there going to be some changes in your staff? It was a legitimate question to ask, especially knowing that you're not going to talk to him for the next 2 months. It was legitimate. And what does he do? Takes his freaking press passes away.
Yeah.
Takes his ability to go talk to him about it. And why? Because you can't answer the question. Obviously, and you know what? It was really a valid question in view of the fact within a matter of days, it was mass exodus out the damn door. We were hearing about it all season. After the TCU loss, there were kids throwing shit fits in the locker room there after they were up 17. And it wasn't because they lost. It was because of how they lost. And because Coach Gundy didn't act like he gave a damn. He comes into the locker room. How does he go? Well, that wasn't as fun as the last few, like he didn't give a shit. And if that's the attitude that you walk into a locker room with, Coach, when you just lost a game that you should have won, and I can tell you that is not the attitude that Coach would walk into his locker room with after a loss. He might kill a kid, but it's not actually kill a kid, but listen, he's gotten too damn comfortable. And yet, not one of those dudes, not one of these people, his fans, a lot of these fans, they're all just like, okay, we can't get any better.
But I'll tell you, and you mentioned this, Jason, is that he has that buffer system around him with certain people. But I'm going to tell you what, I've been in this business long enough to know that shit will disappear as well, because at some point they're going to get tired of him and he's going to have no buffer.
Sure. Well, and I mean, eventually, I mean, look, we are 2 years removed now. It's really just 1 year removed from them being this close to getting into the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about all the reasons in the world why they were even in that position when they shouldn't have been. We all know why that is. You know, the truth of it is, though, he did put them in that position. Now,
Sure.
a lot of it that I see, you know, people talk, well, he's talking about this, Coos, and I love Coos to death, but he did a ranking of the Big 12 coaches, had Gundy second. He had BV last. And which I get it, he hasn't proven anything as a head coach, but this guy is his pedigree is real. The guy's not he's not worse than Gundy for damn sure. He's damn sure not worse than a guy like freaking, well, what's his name at Cincinnati? And then you've got Dana Holgerson's awful, you know. And he even had, the thing is the last two guys that he had on his list, and I'm going to go on and show after this and kill him over it. But the last two guys that he had on his list was Joey McGuire and Venables, because they're both 1 year in. And it's like, when you've had a top 10 defense, you have been recruiting at the highest level. You're cleaning up a mess that wasn't yours, that you didn't make, and you're not getting any love for it. And I love Kuz and everything, but I mean, I could see not putting him in the top 5, but even the bottom 5 is crazy to me, because there's no way in hell that that's the case. No. You know, the guy has recruiting is part of being a head coach, is it not?
A big part.
A big part.
You don't have the X's and the Joes, the X's and the O's don't matter.
And I'll tell you one thing. I mean, who he had climbing number 1, I'll give you that. The guy's won 6 national championships in Division I AA. Okay, I'll give you that. I wouldn't have had Gundy anywhere close to number 2. I would have had Lance Leipold probably at number 2, if that's the way you're going, where you think as far as those guys are concerned. Yeah, Neil Brown is a complete joke, right? You know, guys like that. And I mean, again, whatever you may have done, let me just say, he hadn't proven anything yet, and that's why I could say, yeah, I get it, not putting him in the top 5, and maybe even at the lower part of the bottom of the next 5. But number 14 out of 14 coaches, yeah, no. And I don't even think, and I got to tell you that as much as I'm not a Sark guy, he wasn't in the bottom 5 either. Shouldn't have been. Because we're talking about Gundy. Wow, man. Bob Stoops is number 1. Hey, he's definitely been the best coach in the Big 12. He was the best coach in the Big 12 probably throughout the life of the conference.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give him that.
Agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah, because it started in like 95, 96 is around the time that they started the Big 12, right? Maybe a little before that. But it's not that old. Before that was the Big 8 in the Southwest Conference. I mean, obviously, you know, but man, yeah, he's definitely, he's got more pelts on the wall than anybody else. So for the Big 12 era, you know, so you got to give him that. Definitely, though, I would say Mac isn't far behind. And if you look at Texas, they should not have fired Mac Brown. I don't care what you say. There's no way you should have fired Mac Brown. Yeah. No, Kuz is good, man. He does a good job. But yeah, I don't know where he was coming from on that one. I killed him on it right away. I said, you got to come do a video with me. And he goes, well, I'm doing a live tonight at 10. And I said, well, as soon as I get off, I'll jump on and be ready, because I'm coming. We coming.
And hell's coming with me.
That's right. I'm bringing Hank with me and bringing Kim, all these boys. They come on with me. Let's get them, Matt. The bottom line is the list was just not good. And guys, really, while you're thinking about it, write up your list and tell me what you think about it and stuff like that. We'll go in fully handed.
Well, and here's the question that's got to be asked. Hell, we can all put a list together, but what's the criteria?
Right.
What's the criteria?
The best teams and the best coaches in the conference. It was who's the best. And he's saying because they don't have a track record and his first year was 6 and 7, you got to take into consideration that bro, that 6 and 7 very easily could have been 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that terrible of a defense and you know what? You guys have said it. Hank said it a bunch. James has said it a bunch. Every time he's gone anywhere, they have struggled in the first year with his defense. Second year it gets better. Third year, holy shit, watch out. And you can see the kids that he's bringing in, this is night and day difference. Hawaiian Ice. Jimmy Johnson was the best Oklahoma State head coach. I would agree with that. Yep. That's why he didn't last there long. That's why he didn't last there long. Just long enough. No doubt. No doubt. DC coaching is still coaching. What are we talking about? Yeah. That's a ranking that can be slanted. Yeah, and yes. And what is the criteria? But here's what I want to tell you. And even if you want to talk about Leipold and Kleiman, the reason that it's not about what they did at the lower levels. That's all fine and dandy. What I would tell you is Lance Leipold, and he said it himself in his video, Lance Leipold didn't get Kansas until right before the start of the season. He didn't get that job right off he didn't get it in freaking December, January. Late. He got it after spring. And so they went out and yes, they only won 2 games in that first year, but then they turn around and they win 6 the next year. And it was their first 6, Yeah, bro. and they don't have kids, jettisoning out of there like they did at freaking in Oklahoma, at Oklahoma State. You don't have you're not, and at a place like Kansas, that quarterback, as good as he is, you mean to tell me that he isn't in the portal? I wonder why that is. Because he knows he has a damn good coach. He's going to give him a chance. Look, man, Okie Lite has they've done a good job. Yeah. And, okay, James, here's what I'm going to say about this. This is true. And whatever was going on 20, 30 years ago is one thing. But here's what I would tell you about now. It's not the same. Was Boone coughing up all that cash back in those days? I don't think he was. Right? Now they're playing in the same sandbox as the rest of the Big 12. They have some of the best facilities, and they're even getting better. The money that he left behind, we're talking, look, K-State doesn't have that kind of facilities. They don't. They have good facilities. They're not Oklahoma State. Kansas sure as shit doesn't have that kind of facilities, even in their basketball program. Fog Allen is a freaking, it's a great place to go watch a game because of all the history, but it's about 150 years old.
Yeah.
Jalen Daniels is a bad dude. Yeah. But the bottom line is they've got all this money that got left by T. Boone Pickens, and they're still acting like they're poor, and they're not.
No.
They're not. So if you can compete everywhere else, you can compete there. And don't get me wrong, I think that early in his career, Mike Gundy did a great job of identifying that talent that wasn't 4 or 5 star that because you're not going to get them away from Texas and Oklahoma. You're just not. But he was good at identifying those guys that were good that might be a 3-star, right? And even him, because he knew that those guys were out there. He knew he wasn't going to play. Holloway was going to play. So he didn't go to Oklahoma. He went to Okie Lite. Just so happens he goes there and he gets to play with Thurman Thomas and freaking Barry Sanders, and he's probably the best quarterback they've ever had there himself. Mm-hmm. He probably is.
Yeah.
That being said, when you fall in love with this narrative, which is what's happened, the bottom line is there's something going on there. You can't tell me that 30 kids walking out the door has nothing to do with anybody but the kids, because who the hell's coaching these kids? Who's fostering this culture? I mean, we have a coach right here that has coached at a high level. He's coached college football. When there's a problem with kids, it's just like when you had old boy at Houston last year saying that after they're fighting on each other on the sidelines against Kansas, and he's like, "This isn't my fault." Shit, they're your kids.
It's the only person's fault. Because here's the thing: kids know what your expectations are. If they know they can get away with that crap, they're going to do those kinds of things.
Sure.
And don't misunderstand. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but guys, and we all know this old adage: where there's smoke, there's fire, and there was already smoke there. You know, there's more than smoke at Okie Lite right now. Guys, it's blazing. When you lose that many kids, and I'm going to tell you, I don't care who the coach is, whether it was me or it was, I'm just saying this from the perspective that, you know what? I don't care who you are. Right. You better listen to your kids, because when you see that kind of mass exodus,
right,
there's something wrong in your program. And that's just the way it is, whether you like it or not. And, you know, people can say, well, hell, maybe the kids are talking together. Hell, of course they're talking together. And what they're talking about is, you know what? This shit's falling apart.
Yeah.
I'm going to go someplace where it's not.
The shit they were the maddest about was him not being harder on them.
Yep.
And you want to answer this? Because I got the answer, but I know you. Go ahead. How did you take care of huge discipline issues?
What did you do? Oh, as far as to address those issues, guys, the first thing you do is you bring those people in, whoever you're
immediately.
Immediately. You don't wait, and you get straight to the point. You know what? Number one, this is going to be the consequences to what you did.
Depending on what it was. Yeah, you might be out.
It's all dependent. And you know what? I had players say, well, you didn't do the same thing with so-and-so. Well, you know what? So-and-so didn't do the same shit you did. You did something that was far worse. And these are your consequences. And we're going to run your ass. We're going to do these things. You know what? You're not starting. Guys, I had one of the premier linebackers in the state of New Mexico playing for me right before a playoff ball game. And in that week, he threw off his shoulder pads in practice, threw off his pads, threw off his helmet. F this, F you. Guess what? Guess what, guys? We're going into a playoff game that we needed him. And guess where he was? He was on the sideline with me for the first half. He was suspended for the first half. You've got to get their attention. And you know what? You don't have to be a turd about it. These are the consequences to what the things that you do. And we all have consequences. Yeah. And you know what? I just saw the kid, speaking to him, I just saw the kid. He's a police officer now here in Hobbs. and I saw him and said, hey, what's up, F you? And he started laughing. He said, Coach, he said, you know what? I wouldn't be here where I am today if it wasn't for you and teaching me to do the right things. And you know, guys, that's what our job is as coaches, is teach our players to do the right things. And you know what? We screw up too, but we need to have consequences.
Everybody makes mistakes. That's not the point. It's how do you handle it? And at some point, and you know, Hank, I hear what you're saying. It's hard for lower tier teams to get the real character kids. You're not necessarily wrong there, right? But I wouldn't go so far as to call Oklahoma State lower tier just because they're not Oklahoma. Okay. They get to live in the same conference. They have the same, I mean, they've got money. It's not like they can't compete. That's just an excuse to me. I'm sorry, but that is a freaking excuse to me.
I'm going to tell you, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't care where the kids came from. It doesn't matter if they came from, if it was T. Boone Pickens' grandson, and it was a kid that came out of the hood. It don't make a darn.
Yeah.
You know what? You have a set of rules, and they all have to follow those rules. But you
But
got to
that's not
let
what
them
the
know.
problem is, though. I don't think that it's that so much. I don't think these kids are so terrible. That's the thing, is that a lot of what we're hearing right now coming out of there, and what we've been hearing was that the offensive coordinator and the tight ends coach have been abusive to these. This is why they're losing all these kids, right? It's why Spencer left. It's why Spencer threw a shit fit on the sideline during Bedlam last year.
Yeah.
And he went off right in front of everybody, right? I'm telling you now that this is the kind of stuff that goes on. And bottom line is, whatever was happening, that they have fostered this thing. And I wouldn't go so far as to call all these kids bad kids, because I don't think that they are. I don't. What I think is what's going on there is that you have a coaching staff that believes they can do no wrong.
Maybe you have bad coaches.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not the kids. Maybe it's your coaches.
No, they didn't fire him, man. He lost another. There's Sean. No, he lost another kid to the portal. This is like there's somewhere around 30 now, and a bunch of starters. I mean, the better part of their starting deal, and I mean he replaces Jim Knowles with a good coach coming out of Auburn last year. He stays 1 year, and he replaces him with a Division III defensive coordinator. I mean. And this is the kind of stuff that's going on. But bottom line is that this is just, to me, I mean, I've said this a bunch of times before. Hell, I hope he stays forever, because it's Okie Lite. Let him fall. But it's hilarious to me, though, that all this time you couldn't wait. I mean, they've been pissy about Oklahoma going to SEC and them not, right? But since all that, they couldn't wait to get OU out of there so that they could run this conference, particularly after they should have won the conference championship when Baylor did, all that. They should have. They thought it was all theirs. And then get them out of here. Hurry up and get them out of here, right? Well, now the new blood's coming in and taking your lunch money the day they get to town. Your left tackle. He's a monster. He's a freaking monster. And I don't buy that he wasn't going to start. He's 6'7", 350. There ain't no damn way.
He was one of the bad ones, Jason.
Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, but he could go to BYU.
Yeah. And he'll start up there. You watch.
Oh, he started. Yeah. I think it's obvious. Dude, he went to JUCO. He was an under-recruited kid. I mean, he's obviously huge, and maybe he was a little underdeveloped. But he started 13 games last year for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he was good enough. All I'm saying is I don't see how you can possibly blame this on, and that's what, Gundy goes and does, that immediately attacks the kid. Doesn't take any of it on himself. And that's the whole point that I was making, is I don't understand how you can do that. I don't understand how you can do that. Yeah, if Colorado does show up in the Big 12, he might as well leave today, because he will get embarrassed. And that was the whole point I was making a little while ago, and I somehow cut myself off or got cut off. But believe me, Gundy's record wouldn't look near as good if it wasn't for the fact that you had a mass exodus out of this conference and a completely irrelevant Texas for the last 12 years. The same reason that I say about Oklahoma winning 6 conference titles in a row, that would never, ever happen when this conference started. Never would that happen, right? Never. It wouldn't come close. You might not win 3 in a row, and most people wouldn't. I don't know that it ever happened. Believe me, there ain't no way you should have won 6. But it's the same reason that Gundy was able to win all those games, and everybody gives him all this love. That's it. Yeah, we can leave that alone. Yeah, dude. They've lost. Well, the main thing was total of their recruiting, for the recruiting class of 23, that's what this portal stuff is. Yeah, it's almost 30 guys, man, Sean. Almost 30. They were at 20 within 2 weeks, man. I mean, 5 of their top 6 receivers. They lost their top 2 safeties. They lost one of their best linebackers. They lost their best defensive lineman. Trace Ford, although Trace, he was having some injury issues, whatever. And but they attacked him on the way out. I mean, completely attacked his ass on the way out. Well, right? They lose, they lose Spencer Sanders, which I'm not a Spencer Sanders guy, but I mean, he's better than what they got.
But that's where I'm seeing some real negative things here is you don't even if a player's really bad,
yeah,
in whatever we want to
call, you don't call him out on the way out.
You don't call them out that way. You know what? You're the adult. You move on. You say, things didn't work out, and he's going his direction. We're going ours. Things just didn't work out, unfortunately. But he's calling people out. I mean, and not.
Yeah,
people,
I mean, it's
kids.
weird, right?
Calling kids out. You don't call kids out. And that says a lot about you as a person when you're calling out kids. I mean, is that what you're using to save your ass?
Right. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, at some point, I mean, if it was 2 or 3 guys, 10 guys, you get to 15, 20, 30.
That's got to be the most in the country.
It is. And I mean, not that everybody's losing guys to the portal. That's not we were just talking about this at the start of the show. Oklahoma needs to jettison some kids to the portal. It just kind of has to happen because defensively, you can't get better with some of these kids. You can't. The guys that went to the portal, nothing against either one of them. They weren't going to get their opportunity to play anyway. They needed to go for their own good. They needed to go. That's different. We're not talking about starting receivers and starting safeties. The Taylor kid, and I mean, what was the kid that went to USC? Which what the hell? He was a big hitter, right? We talked about him before. I mean, dude, Trace Ford listen, man. Trace Ford is a big boy. When he is healthy, you can't tell me he didn't matter. And if he didn't matter, then you wouldn't have had Doug Gottlieb and all the rest of the entirety of freaking the Okie Lite fan base beating him to death on Twitter on the way out.
Yep.
I saw Okie Lite guys wishing real harm on him, on Trace Ford, when he gave them 4 years.
But that's the culture that Gundy has created.
See, that's what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm saying, Coach.
And his fans are just following his lead.
Yeah, again, because he's insulated. He's got all these folks that, I mean, he's an Oklahoma kid, so they love him, and he stayed around and he's their coach. Man, believe me, if they would have given him the Tennessee job when they gave it to Josh, or when it wasn't even Josh, it was when they gave it to old boy that got in all that trouble, the defensive coordinator from Alabama. Oh shit, what's his name? James, you want to throw it in there? It's shit.
I can see his face.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's all Chick-fil-A bag of, not Butch. No, he had a Chick-fil-A bag of, Jeremy Pruitt. There you go, Mars. Thank you.
That away.
There you go. I knew it. Yeah. So Jeremy Pruitt. But I mean, they were talking about Gundy was kind of, and then he acted like, nah, he didn't want the job. Your ass, you didn't want that job. Your ass, you didn't want that job. Get out of here. Boone could have fired him. Yeah. But they waited until Boone died, and then they gave him this freaking revolving 40-year $40 million contract that renews every year.
I don't understand that.
I don't get it either. I mean, and the AD's brand new too, and gave it to him. It's like, why did you do that for? It almost never works out when a new AD comes in, after a long time. You come in and you get rid of them all at some point. I can't even understand it. He came in and hitched his wagon right to his ass. Go figure, man. Yeah. Hit that. Yeah. Guys, make sure you hit the like button. We've got 40 people in here. I'm just looking in here. We only got half of those as likes. So please, please, please hit the like button. Buy some podcast merchandise. I got to put something on there about Okie Lite. I think that needs to be a shirt. How would you guys want to see a shirt like that? Something about Okie Lite. You know what I mean? We got to do something to troll them. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite things. So, yeah, I listen, man. To me, what you need to do is you need to cut that contract. You need to knock that off.
Yeah. Change
that back, right? Because otherwise, yeah, and because I think that he's 2 years away because of it, But I think that they're at the bottom. I see them finishing at the bottom of the league this year. Cody was talking about if they don't win 9 games, he should be fired. Well, then he should definitely get fired then. But they're not going to win 9 games. There ain't no damn way. I don't care how easy their freaking schedule is. There ain't no damn way. A horns down headband. Ooh.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about. We've got beanie hats, regular hats. I mean, I got my hat. Damn, I left it in the other room. I've got the horns down hats everywhere. We've got also the 4-star booty hats. I don't know if you guys saw those. No. I can actually share that. Let me share.
4-star booty hats, huh?
General booty. So I put it as 4-star booty. Yeah. I thought you guys might like that. Let me get there. SE merch. And I did it pretty quick. It looks pretty good, really. All right. What's going on here? Present screen. There you go. You got the Seatbelt Mafia, obviously, for Macari. But then you got 4-star booty in some different ways, all different colors.
I like it.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Pretty awesome, right? Check it out. A Gundy Lite hat, Okie Lite, Gundy Lite. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So, Seatbelt 6. Of course, you've got the horns down as well.
You need to do a beer can and call it Gundy Lite.
And there it is. See, I've been waiting on you to come up with one. Then we do, obviously, and folks, I hadn't really talked about it much lately, but we're getting kind of close to where we're going to have to start doing this a lot more. The Otis Taylor for the Hall of Fame stuff, go check out some of that stuff. I'm going to be putting out some content on that here in the next couple of weeks, particularly right after the spring game this week. I'm going to definitely hit that hard. But get over there and check that out. We need to get on some of these voters' asses about that stuff, right?
Yep.
I used to call Baker 6 so savage. Yeah. Yes. We could do just a 6. But yeah, the Seatbelt 6, because that's where Macari's going to be this year. He's obviously a friend of the program, haven't been on there. You guys would really like, I figured you might like this one. I'm not going to say the words, but that's the 5 Bs of Oklahoma that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I'll make those published. Get them up there for you. Anyway, yeah, go on there, check that out. That's a great way to support the show, be able to wear some cool gear as well. And then yeah, the general booty stuff is pretty cool, right? I even got the MASH style.
I
did it kind of like MASH. Little military appreciation.
I like it.
I do too. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, yep, check it out. All right, fellas. So let's see. Anything else we need to kind of talk about? Obviously, we're still As far as I can tell, I hadn't seen anything in the last couple hours before the show started. I'm definitely going to get over there and give Kuz a hard time, though, here in just a few minutes. So, yeah, definitely. What did you say here? Let me stop that screen. Every time I hear Booty's name, I think Buckaroo Bonsai. General Booty. Man, dude, it's so awesome. Tuck Faxes, we could do that one. I think we need to. We were talking about it the other day, though. We can do some that look like USC hats, but it could be suck instead. We'll do something like that, maybe. I love stuff like that. The Oklahoma defense coach in the future. I don't know. I keep hearing that, and I don't know. Did they finally make him? I keep forgetting to ask. And Drew was there at coaching clinics this week, so I don't know if he's there or not. I know he was having hip replacements, so that was why he didn't take a job, Jim Leonard, because he had plenty of opportunities to take jobs. Yep. And I think they certainly would have gobbled him up as the defensive coordinator here. And I think that's a possibility. Now, obviously, you saw the who's the Mean Green, Texas, and they're in Denton or right
North Texas State.
North Texas, right? Yeah, that guy's here. He's their head coach that was an offensive guy. He came in to be an analyst now. I think that could kind of be a little writing on the wall about what could be going to happen with Lebby in the future. This is obviously a big-time offensive coach as well. But, yeah, I feel like this is one of those things that's going to be, one of them deals. But I do feel like you probably got a couple of years left. Yeah, Latrell. Mm-hmm. You got a couple of years left of Lebby. If they go big and get into the playoff this year, and look, we talked about the other day on Jay's show that he was asking about, would Dylan come back after this year? I don't think that you even would want him to. As much as I like Dylan Gabriel, you got to get the job ready for it. Jackson's not ready today. He'd probably be ready by the end of the year, and you certainly don't want to wait another year because you would lose him that way, But I feel like that's the thing. You want to definitely – I think he's going to coach him for a year. And the thing is, though, I'm not positive that Lebby's going anywhere because I do feel like he brought in, Michael Hawkins. He's got a good thing going here. But then again, I think an SEC job opens up.
Yeah.
You can see that happening,
Yeah.
You can see that happening. So, okay. Well, folks, I appreciate everybody coming in here. Get in the comments. Let us know what you guys want to see more of. We will go live at least one more time. I'm thinking I'm going to be heading out there this week. I'm hoping. I'll know for sure on Thursday. But we'll definitely be doing something from out there if we're there. If not, expect us to get more and more content for the rest of the week. But again, we're getting ready to start going 3-4 times a week. So it's let's crank it up. Thanks a lot, everybody, for, hey, thanks a lot for the tip, Chicken. Happy to have you back. Make sure you jump in there, grab some of that podcast merch. We'd appreciate that. And we will see you guys on the next. Hey, yeah, if I see anybody there at the games this weekend, shotgun and beers, I don't know. But I'll definitely have a beer with you. But, guys, thanks a lot for coming in. We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Horns down.
See you guys.